Thank you. Now we go by video link to Miriam Cates.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to speak in this report stage of the Finance Bill. Over the last 14 months, the main concern of this government has been to protect the UK from the worst impacts of a global pandemic. We've seen a comprehensive public health response to slow the spread of coronavirus, and more recently to deliver mass vaccinations on an unprecedented scale. But the government has also delivered a comprehensive financial response to secure jobs and livelihoods and protect the economy. This response has been hugely successful, and the most recent OBR forecast suggests that the UK economy will recover 6 months earlier than previously thought. But this financial response, essential though it has cost the taxpayer £407 billion, the majority of which has been debt, and this year we've borrowed a staggering 17% of GDP. As we emerge from the pandemic, it's imperative that we begin to plan how that debt will be repaid and the deficit reduced. One of the tools at our disposal is to raise levels of taxation, and it's right that any increases should fall on the broadest shoulders. Whilst many SMEs in my constituency have struggled this year, some of the UK's biggest businesses have made significant profits. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's only these large, often international companies, those with profits of over £250,000 a year, that will be required to pay the highest rate of corporation tax as stipulated by Clause 6 of this bill. And it's not only the UK that is reconsidering business taxation. Current global efforts to update corporation tax frameworks in response to modern challenges are ongoing, and we've seen reports today of these international negotiations and the positive steps that are being taken to address the current practice of some multinational companies to shift profits to low tax jurisdictions. And I absolutely support the efforts to end this practice. But I have to oppose new Clause 23, which would compel the government to publish a review within 6 months of the impact on corporation taxation revenues of a global minimum rate. Since these matters are still subject to international negotiation, any assessments mandated by this amendment would be purely speculative and a complete waste of resources. Madam Deputy Speaker, taxation is not a penalty and it shouldn't be an ideology. Tax policy is a tool, a mechanism that we can use to make sure that the state can afford to pay for the infrastructure and services that citizens expect. Taxation levels must balance the requirements for these services with the rights of individuals and businesses to have as much agency as possible over their own financial resources. There's no absolute right or wrong level of taxation, and tax rates should change with the times and the challenges that we face. The opposition has spent the last year calling for more taxpayers' money to be spent on supporting businesses, supporting welfare, supporting health, and they have often rightly framed this demand in moral terms, highlighting the impact of the pandemic on those who've been hardest hit. But all resources are limited, even the state's, and just as public spending has a moral dimension, so does public debt. It's morally wrong to leave difficult decisions for future generations, to rack up eye-watering interest payments for our children and grandchildren, and to risk the security of our economy. That's why we must have a plan for reducing our debts, and increasing corporation tax for the largest businesses is an important part of this. Madam Deputy Speaker, I said that taxation policy is a tool, a mechanism for raising money, but it can also be a catalyst for growth and investment. And with the introduction of the super deduction and free ports that will be discussed in the next grouping, I'm confident that this unamended finance bill will kickstart our recovery and help businesses across the country to build back better.